game on Sunday, man. I know you're nervous for the Rams, but you got to be a little enthusiastic after being there.
Bro, that game atmosphere was ridiculous. The energy, the electricity. That place was rocking. Anyone was there, and a lot of the Super Buck fans were there too. The Buck.
Tampa Tones. We are joined by lead goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little clear. But we're joined by Pat Donovan.
It looks like Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like we got a little...
No, my camera's broke.
Howdy ho, howdy hey, how the hell are you? Welcome in to the Buccateers podcast on a feel-good Friday. We got a full house today, not talking about the show with Danny Tanner and the boys, but we're talking about Buccaneer football today here on the Buccateers. I'm your host, Tampa Tones, and we got some huge news we're going to bring up here in a second, as we already got a good chat going on this Friday as well with Lucky Lucy in the house. Happy Friday. Thank you, and happy Friday to you, Lucky Lucy. I hope your Friday is going fantastic as you prepare for the big Super Bowl weekend. We have MK saying Gene in the house, and that's what we're going to get to here right now, ladies and gentlemen. Get used to it here on the Buccateers, because we do have some news, some big news. Our guy Gene from the Buck What You Heard podcast, longtime friend of the shows. I remember when we were starting up the Buccateers, Gene was on very early on. I want to say one of the first, I know, right before a big playoff matchup. I've been on Buck What You Heard before at the same time. But I'm going to let the man speak for himself now. Without further ado, Gene is now a Buccateer. He's going to join the Buccateers podcast as much as we can. We're open arms here, and we're glad to have Gene. Really going to give his insight, his knowledge, and all his good stuff. Tampa Bay, Bucs football, just talk some other stuff at times too. Maybe a little wrestling, just National Football League talk, Gasparilla when that's around, even though it's not for a long time now, but just a bunch of fun stuff to talk about every single podcast. And now we got another Buccateer in the mix to do that with, and it is our guy, Gene. Gene, how the hell are you, brother? Long time no talk. Glad you could join us, and glad it's going to be more of a, permanent thing moving forward. Yeah. I'm excited to have you.
Man, I'm excited to join you guys. I love the content. I mean, you guys really bring it every week, and I appreciate what you do, and I'm glad to be a part of this. I love talking football, and I love how fan-friendly the show is, and I think that was one of the big things for me, is just that you guys don't belittle the fans. If somebody's got an opinion, you bring them in and you make them comfortable if they're in the chat. It looks like the chat right now is starting to get kind of live for us, so I'm here to, just kind of help you guys out and just fill in where I can. And I'm really looking forward to this, man. I mean, this was an incredible season we had, above most people. I would say 90% of the fans' expectations that we were able to do it. So, I'm really glad that we were able to get there. And it was a big thing for me.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. It was really an incredible season. A season that was looked down on by a lot of the fans, and that's okay. We understand. We were 4-7 at one point. Not a lot to be excited about, but really, I think we had a hell of a season, and Gene's going to go ahead a little bit later in the show and maybe give us some bright spots or awards of his season, as well as the Bucs did have, to me, an overachieving year. I'll call it an overachieving year. And we do love to talk to our fans. Gene, as my man Stunna says, we don't do super chat. We do Bucs chat. We just all have fun. Everybody throws a comment in, and we kind of dissect it and see where it takes us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, this is great. I mean, right now, getting to watch getting to watch this organization, and it's an organization that all Bucs fans should be proud of, considering where we came from to where we are now. Just watching the general manager put in work, looking at the head coach and how they are going about it professionally, bringing in replacements for key components that have moved on, to other positions. So to me, it makes you more proud right now to be a Bucs fan when you look at what Jason Light has done in his tenure, and what even Todd Bowles is doing. I mean, you've got a head coach that's won 2 NFC championships in a row, NFC South championships in a row, and it's Todd Bowles. And again, I'll get into that a little bit later on at the end, towards the end of the show, but got a lot of things to say about that. But yeah, just it's great to be a Bucs fan right now, and you've got a competitive team, and you're happy to go to games. So I'm excited and looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're really happy to go to games. And I remember there were some scarce spots through the 2000s where you're looking around the stands and just not a lot of happy people, a lot of empty seats. And I know my man Stunna knows all about that, as he is a season ticket holder. So we'll bring him in now. Stunna, how the hell you doing? Long time no talk, brother. Hope you're doing well. And thoughts on our guy Gene joining the show. As MK says, shout out Gene. Everyone should hit the like button. Please do that. Let me mention quick, we are live on Gene's YouTube right now, on our YouTube right now, on Facebook right now. Wherever you're watching, give us a thumbs up. If you're watching on one of the YouTube, subscribe and do all that good stuff, and turn the notification bell on. As our guy Neil says, I know Neil's watching right now. So yeah, Stunna, how you feeling, brother?
Oh man, just really excited to bring Gene in. Been a big fan of Buck What You Heard for, a great number of years, and now we Buck What You Heard Incorporated, and we doing big things, man. We about to blow up the whole Bay like you thought we were and you knew we were. So it's just exciting times out here with Bucks Nation and Buck What You Heard coming on with the Buccateers. We're gonna fire the cannons and hoist the sails. Go Bucks!
Yeah, and really excited. It's like a great collaboration, right? You bring 2 great podcasts together, and you got one very great conversation. And whenever we go live and Gene's part of the show, as I just mentioned, you could catch our podcast multiple YouTube channels. It's a beautiful thing with technology nowadays that you could do that sort of thing. Giovanni, hey MK, happy off season, old bud. Tom, Bucks fan, happy Friday. Happy Friday to you, Tom. We love Fridays on the Buccateers. Ain't that right, J-Lo? I think you're still with us, brother. How the hell you doing? How you feeling? And another Friday, another show, brother.
Couldn't agree more with Stunna. Adding Gene on, it's an honor. I watched your show as well over the last couple of years. Enjoy all the input you put in, for the team. And happy Friday, man. Like I said, we got some fans in the house tonight, man. It's looking good, man. The collaboration with Buck What You Heard and Buccateers, it's going to be a hell of a team.
Yeah, I know Christopher Cole's our guy and Buck What You Heard's guy. I've recognized him for both shows, so an honor he can be here Friday. Gene, real quick, it's always fun and it's always 360. I remember the Super Bowl year like it was yesterday. During COVID, as you're representing it greatly right there with the beat down in the Bay. Mr. Winfield said, nuh-uh, Tyreek Hill, no cheetah stripes for you tonight. But I remember just calling into your show. My family was calling in. It was a great time to be a Bucs fan. And really, we're the only team in the NFC now who has made the playoffs for 4 straight seasons. So kind of to piggyback off you with Todd Bowles winning back-to-back NFC South, the Bucs winning 4 straight or having 4 straight playoff appearances. A lot of newer Bucs fans, and by newer, it's not an insult, but I mean people who are either new to the game of football or new to Buccaneers football. A lot of people joined during the year that either we got Bruce Arians in 19 or Tom Brady in 20, and they kind of are just used to winning or at least playing really good football. And we're not really used to that in terms of consistency, Gene, but now you're seeing the Brady effect. Perhaps the franchise turned the corner. We didn't have Brady this year, and we did just fine. We did better than we did a year ago without Brady. So, Gene, do you think that's holding true? Do you think with guys like Bruce coming here, Brady coming here, Gronk coming here, all those guys, do you think that helped change the franchise, not only for this little run, but hopefully for, the next decade or two? The Bucs are never going to be the Yucks again. We're always at least going to have some sort of competitive edge is the hope.
I go back to when I was talking about Jason Light. And again, if you guys haven't noticed, I am a huge Jason Light fan. When you go back to Bruce Allen, when you look at Mark Dominic, and the combined ineptness that you had there for well over a decade of just horrible moves, just across the football, time. And you look at what Jason Light has done coming in, cupboard is bare, and he's continuously building pieces. And people can say what they want to. They want to bring up the kicker, and they want to bring up some, here and there, moves that he made. And what he's done was put together a team that brought in Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians was a guy that's not coming to a rebuild. He wants to win. So you bring Bruce Arians in, and then you get Tom Brady in, who doesn't want to rebuild. They want to win. So when you look at what he's done and what he's accomplished in his time here as a Buccaneer general manager, I mean, it's just you have to appreciate that when you look at historically what the Bucs have had to work with.
I couldn't agree more, and we keep getting the love for Gene, as our guy Neil L says, yes sir, mean Gene, what it do. Gene, I agree with you though. Jason Light, and I want to get J-Lo's opinion as well. Man, we just got, I could talk, it's already 13 minutes in, seems like I've been talking barely anything, but I just do want to advocate for Light as well. I've seen throughout the season, during the offseason, a lot of people think it's always a game of Madden. They think everything's possible. They think we could do this and we could do that, and we should be targeting this guy. We got to bring in this guy. And as Gene said, all they do is keep bringing up the missed kick in the draft, and no pun intended, but when we got McGaughey, when we got Roberto Aguayo, these are guys that, we had to let go shortly after. But at the end of the day, Gene and J-Lo, now I want to get your thought. Jason Light more than made up for that, because he got us two great franchise kickers in a row. And I might be speaking a little prematurely on Chase McLaughlin, but he had the greatest kicking year. But we had Ryan Suckup help win us the Super Bowl. He was tremendous. Anyone that sits there and tells you otherwise, they're fooling themselves. Sure, he struggled with the long kick, but at the end of the day, that was a franchise change and move. And then to go from a guy like Suckup to a guy like McLaughlin and have that sort of consistency the entirety of the 2023 season at the kicker position, just unheard of being a Bucs fan. J-Lo, I agree with Gene here. I think Jason Light is awesome, and really, I know football's a weird thing. I know sports are a business, but I don't want to imagine this team at all ever without Jason Light, ever in my existence of being a Bucs fan.
No, I couldn't agree more. Executive of the year, man. They need to just extend the guy already and lock him in, because he's been nothing but a miracle worker, putting everything together with the awesome team he has with, the people in the front office. Shout out to them as well. I mean, Jason Light has done so many great things. Even before the Tom Brady era, I mean, he brought players in like Deshaun Jackson, even though that didn't work out. And he brought in other players like Chris Baker, who's a bum, but it is what it is. But however, at the end of the day, he got Brady here. He got Bruce Arians out of retirement at the time. I mean, sky's the limit to be a Bucs fan, man. And to have Jason Light aboard is just a huge, huge deal that fans need to appreciate.
Yeah, and Stunna, I'll leave this question up to you. Do you regret firing Byron Leftwich? I'll simply answer no. Stunna, what say you?
I think it's Simon.
Byron Leftwich, definitely don't regret firing him. Jason Light's done a wonderful job as a GM. He made a lot of great moves and got us some great players. He fixed a lot of deficiencies we've had over the years, from pass rush to secondary play. Really, other than Rich McGaughey, we haven't really had a lot of great GM people for the Buccaneers over the years historically. So, and longtime Bucs fans remember non-signing Doug Williams and drafting Bo Jackson and, iconic moves like that. But we had definitely not wasted any draft picks. We definitely built our team and got some Hall of Fame players through his picks, just like we did with Rich McGaughey. But Rich McGaughey had far more busts. If we draft the MJ Stewart, we turn around and get Carlton Davis, my favorite Buck currently. And, anyone hating is just a fool. Yeah. But I'm with Gene. It's a proud time to be a Bucs fan, for what we suffered. Brady definitely had the greatest stretch in history. But what we did this year with Baker and the offense, it really was encouraging as well.
$81 million over the cap, and you build a playoff team and take your team to the playoffs. I mean, it speaks for itself. And again, I think he's going to outdo himself this year. I think anybody that doubts Jason Light in this offseason and what he's going to do in free agency and with the draft, you're fooling yourself.
Couldn't agree more. And, you know, our pockets grew.
What would you do at 26, Gene?
At 26, if there's a good cornerback there, I'm grabbing a cornerback, to be honest. I mean, or a safety. I'm not sure. I've been kind of looking. I just started looking. We need somebody to complement Antoine Winfield Jr. So, you know, you can't put the load all on him, and they really need to be shoring up, you know, getting him a compliment to help.
Our free safety play was atrocious. I completely agree.
And it's been bad for a couple of seasons now. And nothing against Ryan Neal, nothing against Logan Ryan. These are guys that Jason Light brought in on bargain deals to really try and help fill holes in this defense. We saw Logan Ryan do a better job of that. Ryan Neal this year had a lot of down moments. He was a little more of a shining star at the end when he had to fill in for, you know, our 6 linebacker spot because we were looking for them off the street. But, you know, Tom says 2008 to 2019 was a desert. Sure was.
It's horrible.
Gene, I want your thoughts on that comment real quick. You know, now we're seeing the Bucs with Todd Bowles, defensive head coach, who's had a lot of success. Like you said, $81 million in debt last year. No big deal. Give me Baker Mayfield for $4 million. By the way, less money than Jarrett Stidham made last year. How do Todd Bowles and Jason Light do that? Pretty incredible job. But Gene, you know, going from offensive coordinator after offensive coordinator, head coach after head coach, you know, Lovie Smith, Raheem Morris, Greg Schiano's of the world, and then offensive coordinator-wise, Greg Olson, remember him, Jeff Tedford. I mean, these are some guys that just didn't pan out whatsoever. Now you're seeing this Bucs team go after the young, vibrant offensive minds. That Dave can, even though Byron didn't pan out that last year, but still at the time, Byron, a young offensive, vibrant mind, he hit a wall, no pun intended. And then you've seen Dave Canales, and now you're seeing Liam Cohen. I think the Bucs are doing a better job nowadays of kind of, quote unquote, keeping up to pace with the competition and making these moves for these offensive coaches that really know how to, you know, innovate good offenses.
Yeah,
you know,
I will say this: they have a direction. They're building an identity. When you looked at Bruce Allen, there was no identity there. They were bringing in veterans to work with John Gruden. Then once you get the rock star moron in there, Mark Dominic, you know, they never addressed the trenches. They never focused on the trenches. They were just getting these shiny pieces here and there, and they never really had a direction they wanted to go. Raheem Morris got him a 10-win season in 2010. And after a whole bunch of injuries in 2011, they just kind of tailspun. And I know a lot of people talk about the ownership, and they were more keyed on Manchester. But I think Jason Light has shown you, if you're smart and you have good talent evaluation, you could still bring in good players on the cheap and still have a competitive team. I just don't feel like, you know, the GM and the head coaches were on the same page throughout that season, especially with Greg Schiano and bringing in who he wanted. He didn't want to work with who he had. He wanted his own thing in there. And sorry, KB, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I know you're a Greg Schiano guy, but I would still launch his ass into the sun if he were part of this organization. I just thought that was just a bad move, and I blame Chip Kelly. And you know, we don't want to go down that path.
He left us at the altar, Chip.
Yeah, basically. But you know, it's kind of getting back to that. You look at 2014, that offensive line was atrocious. The defensive line was atrocious. I mean, you had the secondary playing 30 yards off the ball, and they were still getting smoked. But you compare that to what it has evolved into right now. And again, folks, if you're complaining about the Buccaneers, just look no further than maybe 8 years ago, 5-6 years ago. And, you know, it should really help you open your eyes to what a great opportunity you have right here with this coaching staff, with this front office organization and just what they're doing. John Spytek and his talent evaluation, and Greenberg and his capology, and just everything they have in place is just it's ripe for success.
I agree. And, you got, as you alluded to, Spytek, Greenberg, couple ladies up there that do their thing. There's just a whole team up there in that Bucs front office that is clicking together right now. They know exactly what they're doing. As Olivia says, fire the cannon. Thanks for joining us, Olive.
Yeah, Olivia. Shout out to Olivia.
Yep, shout out Olivia, as Gene says. Tom says, beating the Eagles in the playoffs never gets old. J-Lo, you were at the game. It didn't get old, did it?
No, it didn't. It felt like a normal day to me, or a normal night. I'm sorry. That was just an amazing experience.
A Monday night.
J-Lo, I have to ask you.
Yes, sir.
Was it more red than green at Ray J for that game?
Hallelujah. From the moment I was tailgating to the game and after the game, there was so much more red than green. And that was just an amazing experience. I mean, the stadium was rocking like I've never seen it in a long time since I was like a teenager. That's how loud that stadium was, full of Bucs fans. And mind you, Brady-less fans. So that's even big to me that you have a guy like Baker Mayfield coming in, Tom Brady's place, and you feel a stadium full of Bucs fans. And it was just an amazing experience, man. And it never gets old because the Eagles, they are who they were. They were a beat-down team. And what do? You beat them down and knock them out of the playoffs.
That's right. It was good to see those dirty savages leaving out of there with their heads down.
Oh, I was having a lot of fun, singing "Na Na Na," hey, goodbye to them. Of course, something flipped me off, told me to, go to hell. I'm like, all right, whatever, you first. And Joe going back up to Philadelphia with the L.
Well, you consider, I'm interested to see how those fans are in Brazil, because that Philadelphia is going to be they're playing the NFL game in Brazil. And I can tell you what, they're not going to get away with a lot of that stuff they're doing in the US over there. I'm just saying. I even tweeted out that, hey, you guys pump your brakes because they're built different over in Brazil. Y'all will disappear acting crazy over there.
No, I remember you did, and I responded. It's another level over there. Like I said, Brazil, they don't play, man.
No, they don't.
You can
bribe a policeman. You give a policeman like $200, man, and make somebody disappear.
You can have Eagles fans going missing that week. 'Cause, man, when I was there for the first regular season Monday night game this year, Bucs Eagles, they were SOBs. They were mean. They were, they did gang up on us.
They're young, man. They don't care.
No, they do not. And there were a lot of them there, and they said, "Oh, we're Bucs season ticket holders." I look at him, I'm like, "Well, the game that matters tonight, you're not rooting for the right team." So that's another problem. A lot of them are Tampa natives now. But Gene, when we're going to implement like this off season. We're going to do Man Cave Mondays at times, and then we're also going to do like historic episodes. And I know you were at Germany for Bucs Germany, so I'd love to get that as one of the history episodes, as your experience overseas and how the whole Germany.
I will tell you right now, just not to get off the subject, because I know we're kind of getting off keel here. We'll get back on. That was the best NFL football game I've ever been to in my life. I swear to you. And I don't care what anybody says. I mean, you could have gone, well, probably not the Super Bowl. Super Bowl in Ray J. Winning the Super Bowl in Ray J. I can't speak on that because I wasn't there. I should have been. But just what I experienced over there in Germany and all those Bucs fans from all over Europe that converged on Germany, it was incredible.
That is incredible. And that really looked special. And I'm sure it even felt a lot more special being at that game. And, definitely a bucket list item of mine is one of these days get out to a Bucs game that's overseas somewhere, whether it happens to be in London, Germany, Brazil. Well, we'll see. But I'm not going to be like Eagles fans if I do that. That's for damn sure. Because
you will disappear. Trust me.
Exactly. And Gene makes a great point on that. And Eagles fans, they just always run rampant. As Neil says, hit that like button. Cleve of me says, Mean Joe Green here. He is the man. You obviously know Cleve of me, Gene. So.
Yep, I've been on the show. We talk wrestling more times than not.
There's a little bit of wrestling stuff going on right now. Tom Bucs fan, 6 playoff game wins, half of the franchise, total 12, best in the division. MK, I'm gonna go eat wings and drink some beers, listening to you, cause that sounds delicious, man. What
It
kind of
really
wings?
does, man.
What kind of beer? What kind of wings? And why didn't you give any of us some? You know?
Yeah, man. You got to share with the rest of the class.
Sharon's
Exactly.
caring.
Should we get Chris
What the
Baker
hell?
back? What?
Chris Swaggy. What that Big Ox was at a hockey game or something, making fun of Bucks fans or something like. I hate that guy. I still hate that guy.
Dude,
Wait.
I was there. I was there when the Lightning.
J-Lo, give us your
lost.
Baker story.
Oh,
Not
that-
Baker Mayfield, not clarity out there. Don't clip this. I don't need to be
Swaggy.
clipped.
We're talking Swaggy. Go ahead and say, well, I don't know how swaggy he really is, but I think lazy's a better word than swaggy, but go ahead.
Yeah, all mouth but no bite, man. That's all I can say. All bark. I don't know. That was at the Lightning game when we lost Game 7 to the Capitals, and he was like hounding on the Tampa fans, running his mouth. It kept going and going and going. I'm telling you, I mean, I can't stand that guy. I don't wish anything bad to him. I know he had a stroke not too long ago, but for the most part,
I did not know that.
Yeah, he did. He had a stroke. I mean, he's recovering well. Last I checked, because like I said, I don't wish bad on anybody.
No, me either.
But at the end of the day, I mean, he really kept himself out of here after 1 year. Almost getting to fight in the locker room with the players. I think him and Quan Alexander got into it toward the end of the season because Quan felt like Chris Baker just gave up, and just didn't want to play his best. At the end of the day, when you're paying, ain't nobody dissing Chris Baker, bro. We're just saying he just didn't pan out the way he needed.
I'll diss him. I seen him in Miami. I remember Big Nasty hollering at him. He just, he just arrogant. And then, he cost us a game in Carolina hopping off sides. He definitely was sloppy. He went out nasty. He showed his ass at the Lightning game. I remember talking shit. I'm like, yeah, let's see what you do with the Bengals. He didn't even make it out of training camp. He just showed up with Deshaun Jackson. I don't even know I don't even know how or why he got signed. I guess they figured that he wanted to be here so bad or something, but he definitely didn't add a whole lot to our locker room.
Yeah, and at that point, we gave him pretty decent money as well as the NFL continues to grow money-wise. But drafted Mike Evans, he's alluding to Jason Light has had a lot of great draft picks. I mean, Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, you look back at 2020, you got Wirfs and Winfield in the same draft. You look back at last year's draft, it was incredible. He's done a hell of a job drafting Chris Godwin as well. Yeah, that's another good point. He drafted Godwin, I believe, in the round 3.
And you look at there are still players around the NFL that he's drafted and they're playing. What Jeremy McMuffin he's with San Francisco, right?
Yep, he is. He's I believe he's Snoop Dogg's relative.
Yeah,
Jeremy McNichols.
McMuffin. Yeah, that's who he is to me, is McMuffin. That's who he's always going to be because he's. It is what it is.
And now you're making me hungry now, I was going to say. But, Gene, we'll start with you, Gene, and we'll go around the corner. Better free agent signing, Shaq Barrett or Baker Mayfield?
I would have to say Baker Mayfield. As much I love Shaq, I love I love the trenches. I mean, that sets the tone for most games. What I have to see from Baker Mayfield this year is, and I didn't realize it, is the man can read defenses. And we saw that with Tom Brady. And what you have with Tom Brady. But you look at some of your quarterbacks prior to that. You look at McCown, Glennon, Jameis Winston. To this day, this guy cannot read a defense. I mean, he's about as illiterate as Floyd Mayweather, where he just cannot read. He can't get up to the line and look at a defense and tell you what's going on. He needs the coach to point all this stuff out for him. And again, it's just a breath of fresh air to see a quarterback who can get up to the line and say, okay, I see what's going on here. And he works through it, whether he makes plays with his legs or quick reactions. I know a lot of people talk about, he held onto the ball too long, but you know what? When I look at his body of work last year, I have to apologize for being one of those people that said, oh yeah, whatever, Baker Mayfield, yeah, whatever. Well, we'll suffer through this year and wait for next year. But he exceeded my expectations, and I can't stress this enough that he's definitely redeemed himself. I think, getting a offensive coordinator, and I don't want to jump ahead for you because I know we're headed that way, but I'm just saying, I really believe he's going to come back. He's going to get signed by Tampa, and I believe he's going to do big things. He's a good quarterback, and I mean, I listen to podcasts. I hate the 4-letter network, the 3-letter network. I don't listen to them when it comes to this kind of thing. I'd rather listen to podcasts. So you listen to the Miami Dolphins. There was a guy that said, I would rather have Baker Mayfield than Tua Tagovailoa. And, realistically that, I feel the same way. The New York Giants, I listen to a Giants podcast. We would love to have Baker Mayfield here. I think he would be an improvement over what we have. So the fact that Baker Mayfield wants to be in Tampa, he's shown what he can do. And in my opinion, I would love to have him back. I think, you kind of have solved your quarterback problem to some degree. It looks like you just need to work on numbers, and you've got your guy back here.
Yeah.
So to me, just what Baker's done, and I love Shaq Barrett. I love what Shaq Barrett brought his first season. I love how consistent he's been. I know that you don't see his numbers, and a lot of people think sacks are sexy. They are sexy. They're cute to look at, but if you get in quarterback pressures, there's, you can't really put a highlight reel on pressures. But what he's doing to the quarterback, they're having to scheme for him. Mm-hmm. So, Shaq Barrett's doing his thing, but overall, I would take Baker Mayfield over a Shaq Barrett.
And pressures equate to turnovers a good amount of times, or, intentional groundings and penalties and holdings and all those things. So that's a great point, Gene. Stunna, Baker, Shaq Barrett, better free agent signing under Jason Light.
I got to go with Shaq just because we got the ring and, world championship. So it panned out, and we got him when he was peaking. They're both kind of fines. But, Shaq, and we were able to re-sign him as well. Okay. And I don't know if we can re-sign Baker. If we do, that'd be awesome. We're never going to be able to pick number 1 overall, because we're always going to have that, 6 to 8 wins that could keep us out of it. But, which is why I wanted Lamar Jackson back in the day when we got Vita Vea. But that's another discussion. But, just getting the ring with Shaq, him, what he did for our defense, the problem we had an edge, for them years. And we mentioned earlier the clock numbers. To me, the clock numbers there was worse than the creamsicle.
Yeah.
And so, the fact that we were able to get edge rushers like him and Jason Pierre-Paul, put together with the Super Bowl. Now, going forward, if we could re-sign Baker Mayfield, he will be better to me just because, he's the number 1. We'll never get a number 1 overall pick. His reason he was number 1 overall pick, he can make all the NFL throws, obviously drafted that high. And, to get a talent like that. And to me, also, Jason Light does better with free agent quarterbacks than drafting.
Yeah, J-Lo, what say you real quick on the Baker, Shaq Barrett thing? Tom Bucks fan says Whitehead is a free agent. He is, but I'm sure the Jets are going to throw a bag his way. Yeah, they are. He played really good there, Gene. I think he had 3 interceptions in a game there this year.
He stayed healthy. That was the trick.
Healthy for that hard of a hitter is crazy.
Yeah.
J-Lo, Baker, Shaq. So far, you got Gene with Baker and Stunna with Shaq.
Oof, man, tough one. Both of y'all made strong cases on both, sides of it. But I'm going to have to go with Baker. I think Baker, coming in, winning the locker room, winning the fans over. Because you got to admit, he came in, and him and Tristan Wirfs are like besties now. Like, I never seen Tristan Wirfs be so interactive with a quarterback. No disrespect to Tom Brady. He's always going to be the GOAT. But to me, this is like a different vibe I'm feeling with Baker Mayfield, what he's bringing here. I think he's matured a lot throughout, his process, getting dissed the way he did in Cleveland, having to go to a sorry organization in Carolina, and then finish strong in LA. And then he comes here on a reasonable deal. He bet on himself. And, sometimes when you bet on yourself, you play at your best. And I feel like this man might give us the best chance of winning a championship. That's how far I'm taking it. I mean, this guy, I like his dog fight in him. He's got so much dog in him. I mean, he was battling injuries like a champ, and that's something you got to give props to. This man was taking hits, unlike Mr. Brady, throwing the ball down. But at the end of the day, I got to go with Baker. That's my pick right there.
Also 14 years younger than Brady, 15 years younger than Brady. He could surely take a little hit and recover a little bit better than Mr. Brady could. But that's neither near. I don't think there's a wrong answer here. I think it's kind of like when you ask someone MVP, it's like a quarterback's award. When you ask someone this, you could easily make the point for Baker being the quarterback. Right now, though, I lean Shaq a little bit because he had that 20-sack season. He has a Super Bowl with us. He's just done so many incredible things with the Bucs. Obviously, a very tragic offseason last year, both health-wise and off the field-wise. Rest in peace to his daughter still, but now you see him and his wife, Jordana. They had a nice, beautiful-looking child not too long back. Maybe he's going to be on the up and rebound this year. I don't know if he'll be with the Bucs this year or not, but I'll say this about Shaq Barrett. Class act, one of a kind, one of the best human beings I remember ever putting on a Bucs uniform. And I'm not just fluffing that. The guy is a class act. I don't think he has a bad bone in his body. And I don't think Baker does either. Baker's another incredible guy as well. So you can't go wrong either way. I love Baker. I love Shaq. I think both paid dividends. Neil said center when it comes to the draft. Maybe JPJ, maybe Zach Frazier from West Virginia. Tom says need an edge rusher. Kind of ironic. We were just talking about Shaq. Fire the O-line coach. And real quick, I do want to get into our O-line coach. Speaking of fired O-line coaches, ours was fired from the Rams not too long ago, but we brought in 40-year-old Kevin Carberry, who has a pretty elusive background. Gene, J-Lo, and Stunna. He has a pretty good football background, and he's actually from up the road from me, Oak Lawn, Illinois. Not too far from here, about 40, 50 minutes from where I live. He went to St. Rita High School, which Pat O'Connor went there as well. That's in the city of Chicago on the outskirts. One of my good buddies, Eddie, who used to be a Illinois congressman, actually went to St. Rita. So interesting stuff there, for better, for worse. But 40 years young, Mr. Kevin Carberry. And I love when you get former NFL players as coaches, right? He was an O-lineman for the Browns, the Lions, and the Carolina Panthers, played in some other professional leagues as well. And then it started his coaching career in 2007 and 2008 as a special teams coach and defensive coordinator, actually, fellas, for St. Ignatius, which is an Illinois school right by me as well. Then he went to Kansas when Charlie Weiss was coaching there as a graduate. Yeah, Rock Chalk, man. In Kansas, their football program's hell of a lot better now than it was back then. But, still very great school to coach at, Kansas. And then Stephen F. Austin, defensive ends coach, Dallas Cowboys offensive assistant, Washington Redskins 2016 to 2017 assistant offensive line coach. Then he went to Stanford as a run games coordinator and offensive line coach under Coach Shaw. Then under Liam Cohen, Rams offensive line coach for 2021 and 2022. Liam was their OC in 2022. A lot of people are bringing up bad stats, this and that. Hello, Kevin Carberry is an offensive line coach, won the Super Bowl the year that their running backs are Sony Michel and Darrell Henderson. So you got to look at it full picture. And then Gene, but the last stop he was at was in New Orleans as an assistant offensive line coach. Obviously, Joe Gilbert had his guys fighting a little bit, but I think the last couple of years our run game left a lot to be desired. Sure, pass pro was pretty good, but Gene, take it away from here. Thoughts on Kevin Carberry?
I like that. When I look at people want to bring up the Saints, and you have to kind of go back to the general manager. You've heard me talk about general managers and what Mickey Loomis has done. He hasn't done that offense any favors. You don't have quality offensive linemen. You're not drafting them. You're not bringing them in through free agency. You're kind of stuck with, the bare minimum with what you can have. I believe that he will be a better fit with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I love the continuity that they have currently with this offensive line group that they have. Sadly, shout out to Ryan Jensen. And this is for Cam Jordan, you crybaby. And Cam Jordan, I'm sorry that, Mark Dominic didn't draft you, but you don't have to take it out on us Bucs fans, because I know you wanted to be here when we won that Super Bowl in 2020, you big baby. So let's get over yourself. You know, there is a career in sports broadcasting as soon as you retire next year, because I doubt you're going to do anything else this year. So I would just look towards the future of being in front of the camera, because that's all you have left for yourself, and you will be ringless. But
yeah, and he's a jackass. That's all I wanted to add in.
he really is. But
He's a
you guys,
candy ass.
getting back to this here, I like the move. I think there's continuity between the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach. I think they work together. And the one theme that I've seen from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is continuity. I mean, you look at what Todd Bowles has done on the defensive side of the ball and how they performed. You look at they went out and painstakingly chose Dave Canellis, who ended up becoming a offensive head coach for Carolina. You look at what they've gone through trying to find the right fit for Baker Mayfield here in Tampa with this offensive coordinator. I think they're just methodically going through and doing these things to put this team in a position to win and be successful. And I believe that what they've done, especially with the continuity that you have at offensive line, and you can only build on those trenches in the draft or possibly even free agency. I see big things for this team going into next season.
Yeah, I agree with Gene 100% there. I think continuity within coaching staffs is key. Liam Cohen, Kevin Carberry are key cogs. They know each other very well. And you know what else is nice, is Gene related to as well? He's coming from the Saints. He knows a lot about the Saints, so that'll be very nice having a guy come over from the Saints coaching staff. Give us their ins and outs a little bit. Not that their offense was that great, but Richard says, I blame Mark Dominic. Yeah, he made a lot of mistakes.
The guy was a bum. He had no business. I mean, if you look at his history, the guy was a swimmer. I mean, he had no football experience whatsoever. He had no business being a general manager, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, he made a lot of bad moves, and he had no business being a GM. Stunning thoughts on Kevin Carberry. I know you're an offensive-minded coach for the high school ranks. Do you agree? I love that, Gene, by the way. We got to get some of those maybe
Shout out
made.
to my man, Game Changers.
That is awesome, bro. Well, I'll talk to you off air about that. That's pretty damn cool. But stunning thoughts on Kevin Carberry. As Tom says, Greg Schiano is awful, ruined Josh Freeman. Schiano wasn't a great coach, but I think Josh Freeman maybe ruined Josh Freeman. But that's another story we'll get into this offseason, I'm sure, as well. But Stunna, Kevin Carberry, being an offensive guy as you are, do you like this coaching move?
Yeah, I love the coaching move because, like Gene said, continuity with the OC. But in another sense, this really shows how great Todd Bowles is, and that he is not, going to sit by with the staff that's going to make him, look bad. He's going to go make moves, fire them, and bring in the staff that he wants so he can win behind. And I think it also shows how great Bruce Arians was, because he was winning with all these guys that we have since had to fire and send to other staff or other organizations. So I love the move, and I love that Todd Bowles is not afraid to retool his staff. And I really think Todd Bowles, I wanted to hire him myself, and I think that he's really done a great job thus far with the Bucs.
Yeah, Stunna, you've always loved Todd Bowles.
And I'm sorry, I have to say this. I apologize to Todd
go
Bowles.
ahead, Gene.
I apologize because I was wrong, and I do not have a problem admitting I was wrong. As a matter of fact, I'm happy being wrong that Todd Bowles has taken his team where he has. So there will be the Todd Bowles Baker Mayfield apology tour as we go through this season, because I was wrong, and I'm glad I was wrong.
And I'll say this. I mean, the day Baker signed with Tampa, I was 100% on board, because whenever my team brings someone in, I get on their train right away. But coming into this year, I was always pretty skeptical of Baker as well, in terms of, hey, you heard a lot out of Cleveland. You seen how it went in Carolina. Is he the guy? But Stunna, you've always been pretty high on Bowles and Baker, so I will give you that.
Always had Baker. I wanted him when he went to Carolina in the trade because then he could have sat behind Brady for a year. I was just at the game where we beat them in overtime when he was a quarterback at Cleveland and Winston was our quarterback. And, Winston had that game won in the first quarter. And then, of course, he threw interceptions the rest of the way. But Baker never quit. He is, just like what Chad said. Rashad White said in the interview about him being, just a warrior and he just has a killer mentality and he goes to battle guys. And so I always felt that about him, even back in that game, because it was a hot, muggy game and he really came to play that day.
Yeah, as Tom Bucks fan says, swaggy half sack in 17. J-Lo, before we get to you, going to go through a couple comments. They were really ugly in 06, yada, yada, yada. Tom is going Shaq. Baker was a huge win. That's how I feel. But J-Lo, give us your thoughts on Kevin Carberry before we get to one of our coordinator hires, which is intriguing to say the least, for better or for worse. We'll get into him as well. But the final thoughts on Kevin Carberry, sir. The floor is yours, J-Lo.
I mean, you can't hate on it. I mean, I feel like, in this league, we're going younger in coaching. I feel like we're getting a lot more younger between head coaches, assistant coaches, and the guys have a pretty decent resume. And plus, he's familiar with Cohen. And when you're familiar with Cohen, then you're going to be familiar with Baker. So this is all about making Baker Mayfield comfortable, possible, with coaches he's worked with in the past, because he also has experience working with that offensive line coach in 22 toward the end of the season. So I gotta say, maybe not my top is higher, but I'll take him. I'm not gonna knock Todd Bowles for the hirings. He's putting together his football team. Keyword: his football team. Out with Bruce Arians' coaching staff. No disrespect. Thank you for winning the Super Bowl, but now this is Todd Bowles' time, and I think he's putting together a pretty strong team. And we'll see what happens. But so far, I like the hire and just keep making our team better.
Yeah, and let's not forget Todd Bowles was hindered in 2 off seasons, as we do have Tampa realtor David Ferrara joining in the house on Facebook. Awesome stuff. A good buddy of the show's, Ed Rabasa, joining on Facebook as well. So good stuff over there. We appreciate you guys tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, wherever the hell you might find us. But Todd Bowles had 2 very hindered off seasons. The first one, he was thrusted into head coaching role midway through the off season, and when that happens, you can't pick your coaching staff or personnel really. And then this past year, Gene alluded to it, I alluded to it, he had his hands tied with the cap. He had negative 81 million, I believe, to be exact, heading into the year. Tom Brady retiring caused that cap to go way up. So kudos to Coach Bowles for bringing in a lot of his guys right now and over the past couple of years and kind of shaping the staff. Speaking of bringing in his guys, what interested me? The special teams coordinator hire. Not that I'm going to sit here and say it's a great one. Not that I'm going to sit here and say it's a terrible one. But Thomas McGaughey, I'm going to struggle with his last name here. If anyone knows how to, say it correctly, feel free to correct me. But Thomas McGaughey, however you might want to say it, experienced NFL veteran, played in the NFL for a good amount of years, special teams coordinator with the Giants the past 6 years. Interesting fact about him, he lasted 3 Giants head coaches, guys. That's not easy to do, right? Because usually when a coach comes in, they get their guys, like we're talking about now with Todd Bowles getting his guys. Here, Mr. Thomas McGaughey lasted in the Giants for Joe Judge, for Brian Daboll, and he was brought in by Pat Shurmur, I believe. So pretty impressive stuff there. He used to be the the 49ers special teams coordinator as well. Jets special teams coordinator the year before Todd Bowles got there, so Bowles didn't retain him. But J-Lo, we'll start with you here. Thomas McGaughey, former NFL player, now the Bucs special teams coordinator. Just like Kevin Carberry being from my area, Thomas McGaughey is from Chicago as well. Thoughts on bringing him in, as I'm going to get to a couple more comments real quick as Gene will be back in the house here shortly. But before we get to J-Lo, Brad Johnson and Tom Brady were free agent Super Bowl winners. Yes, sir, they were. 28's a good age, referring to Baker. Christopher says if the Oregon Center is there at 26, they better run to pick him. JPJ, you're referring to, he had a really good Senior Bowl as well. He got hurt early on in the Senior Bowl, but he still fought through that. Brad and Brady, biggest issues, they were old men when we signed them, still worth it. Exactly. Shaq picked 6 versus the Bears. The dial is pointing upward, says Justice Muhammad. We draft another defensive disruptor to harass quarterbacks. We did get Kalijah Cansey, Yaya Diaby back this year. Carberry is O-line coach in the Rams Super Bowl year. Yes, he was, and we talked about that a little bit as well. He did win the Super Bowl there. But J-Lo, want to get your thoughts on the special teams coordinator hire here quick.
Plenty of experienced special teams coordinator. I mean, it can't be any worse than what we had in Armstrong. No disrespect to him at all. I mean, I like the hire.
Keith Armstrong, everybody. Keith Atlanta's finest.
Exactly. Atlanta's finest for sure. But I think, hopefully, we'll have some gunners getting out to the punt returner, stopping him from gaining yardage, from which I think it's been our hardest thing the last couple of seasons. And hopefully he'll motivate the punt returner not to just run out of bounds. I try to get some more yardage. Because to me, Armstrong, I feel like destroyed Jalen Darden on the punt returns. Yeah, just run to the sideline. No. Use your agility. Use what you did in college to get these people out of their shoes. But at the end of the day, he's gone now. We got a new guy in, and we'll see what he does. I mean, I like his experience. His resume is pretty strong. And also, I think he won a Super Bowl. He was on a Super Bowl winning team, if I'm not mistaken. I have to go back and look at his resume.
He was with the Giants when they won. He was an assistant special teams coach with the Giants when they won a Super Bowl. You are right there, J-Lo.
So he's got a taste of what winning a championship is, which is good. We need that kind of recipe in here to build, a possible, championship winning staff. So you bring a guy in who has experience on winning the big game, the big Super Bowl game.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Always good to have experience. Plus, from Real Bucs Talk, our great friend says, "Hi, friends. Good to see you both. Always great to see Dr. Plus in the house." Stunna, your thoughts on the special teams coordinator hire, Mr. Thomas McGaughey, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. After the pod, I'm going to go do some tongue twister exercises and see how I did.
Keith Armstrong, he was consistent, but we really never did a whole lot. We historically have not had great special teams in Tampa, outside of Carl the Truth Williams and Michael Spurlock. And of course, Deshaun Jackson, who the refs like to call back his punt returns. But
you can't forget about Clifton Smith.
Which one?
Clifton Smith.
Sorry to interrupt you. Clifton Smith.
He was a Pro Bowl alternate one year, I want to say.
No, he must have been a special teams gunner, not a returner. But I just remember the play against Cincinnati where they snapped the ball behind Geno Hayes' hip, or he wasn't looking for it, and I'm in the stands calling, snap it to him and get this first down because I felt like Cincinnati was taking the momentum from us. And, I called from the stands. I felt bad that we couldn't execute that play. I felt stupid.
Oh, Gio Bernard?
Gio Bernard, yes, sir.
And,
real quick,
Stunna, I want to point something out as well, Stunna. The Giants only had one kicker punt return under him in 6 seasons there as well.
I think it's a good hire. I'm glad we did it. Todd Bowles, he's retooled his staff, and I think that we're the South champions and we're trying to retain that title belt.
Yeah, Gene, what's your thoughts on it? I do want to say that as well. Somebody asked me on Twitter the other day, speaking of Twitter, Pops did pop in on Twitter and said, Gene is the man. Glad to hear him on the Buccateers. Let's make a great Super Bowl run next year. Must be in the works. So, Gene, you're getting a lot of love tonight, my friend. Well-deserved on your end. And before we get your special teams coordinator thoughts, I will say Samir Ali from the Loose Cannons asked me the other day on X, hey, how many return touchdowns did he get in his time with the Giants? The Giants had one kick or punt return touchdown in his 6 seasons there. And in that same time span, the Bucs had 0 kick or punt return touchdowns in 6 seasons here. So one is better than none. Slight improvement, but a little bit of an improvement. Justice says your pal KB obviously hates Coach Bowles. I'll let you handle that one, Gene.
Yeah.
And also thoughts on special teams coordinator hire. I think it's an intriguing move for better, for worse, but thoughts on Thomas McGaughey?
At this point, I'm kind of indifferent, only because I don't know the level of talent they've had. I really didn't get to follow the Giants as much as I should have. I don't know the level of talent that they have on their special teams. I felt like there's always room for improvement with the Bucs, with Jaden Mickens, with some of your other, with some of the other pieces that they've had on special teams, and I think there's always room for improvement. And we just and again, not to take anything away from our previous special teams guy, but maybe it was time for a change, and this may make a difference. And I'm going to come into this season with an open mind, and let's see what he does.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what he does as well. And hey, if Todd Bowles is picking him, I'm trusting him, because right now Todd Bowles is 1 for 1 on the special or on offensive coordinator hires, and special teams coordinator is to be decided. So we'll see how that goes over there. But I'm intrigued by the hire. I think like I said, for the O-lineman, anytime you could get a former NFL player as a coaching option, I think that's a good thing. And Thomas McGaughey, former linebacker back in the day, is going to bring that big stick energy to the table, I believe, as well. As Bud is joining us, as he says, feeling good. We got tempted, saying I'm biased to Baker. We share a birthday. Besides that, the guy brings the energy. Hopefully we can sign him. And then Justice Muhammad says again, I wonder Keenan McCardell will land, blah, blah, blah. Keenan McCardell was last year. We did interview Keenan McCardell, for those wondering, like we did Antoine Randall this year. I think Baker will take a bit less, 38 to 42, to get back to Mike. Well, hopefully he takes around 35. That's really what I'm aiming for. Gene, thoughts on where you'd like to see Baker Mayfield's money this offseason? I'd like to see it ideally around the 30 to 35 mark. What say you?
When it comes to the salary cap, I leave that to the experts. I feel like they know best. I would love to have Baker back. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. And we've seen what you can get from a Baker Mayfield, where he's well coached and he has players and opportunities to make plays. I love what he's done, and I would love to have him back. I think this gives the Buccaneers an opportunity to, somewhere along the lines, draft somebody that can sit behind a Baker Mayfield and get ready to come in. I don't think pulling in free agents at quarterback is sustainable. I would love to see them do something a little bit different eventually in the future. But I'm happy with Baker Mayfield, and I hope, just based on the moves the Bucs have made so far, I think he is going to be the guy that they are keying in to bring back. And Baker wants to be back in Tampa, so it takes 2 to tango, and I think they're ready to get out there and dance.
Speaking of all this Baker talk, he got snubbed last night to me for comeback player of the year. To me, it should have been DeMar Hamlin or Baker Mayfield. I could see why or why not you want to give it to Hamlin. It is an award where you come back from something crazy. The man did pass away twice on the field, as crazy as that is, and he did come back and play football. So if you wanted to give it to the wildest story, to the craziest story, absolutely give it to Hamlin. But if you want to give it to the player, if you're going to give it to a player, how do you choose Joe Flacco over Baker Mayfield? Joe Flacco was a turnover machine when he played this year. Joe Flacco only played, 5 games this year? Baker Mayfield played all 19 games, including the playoffs, that is, obviously. And he was not a turnover machine. And, guess what? By the way, 2 teams showed Baker Mayfield the door last year and said, adios, you're dead to me. The Browns did that, and the Panthers did that. You know what Joe Flacco has been doing in his whole career the past 5-6 years? Making a very good living as a backup quarterback, and teams wanted him. Nobody wanted Baker. Jarrett Stidham, the Raiders' backup quarterback, made more money than Baker Mayfield last year, in part because no one wanted Baker. So to me, it either had to be DeMar Hamlin if you're going for the sympathy aspect of the vote, or Baker Mayfield if you're actually going for the competitive nature and story side of the vote. I'm mad that Joe Flacco got it. Should have been one of the other two guys. J-Lo, what's your thoughts first on that? We'll go around the clock.
Yeah, that was just horrifying. I couldn't believe that Joe Flacco got that award. I just don't see how he beat out Baker Mayfield and DeMar Hamlin. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad that DeMar Hamlin's alive and well, in great health. But at the end of the day, Baker Mayfield has the better story out of the other two when it comes to playing football-wise. DeMar Hamlin, of course, surviving. But at the same time, I mean, Baker should have got that award hands down. That's just my opinion. I know some people may disagree. That's fine. But Joe Flacco was like a slap in the face completely. The guy came off the couch. He performed maybe average if you want to say.
And J-Lo, to your point, I've not to this hour, I haven't seen anyone on Twitter yet arguing that Joe Flacco should win it. I've either seen DeMar Hamlin or Baker Mayfield. I haven't seen a Joe Flacco argument yet, J-Lo.
No, I mean, the guy has been a journeyman backup. And you got somebody like Baker Mayfield, who was pretty much on his last heel of being a starting quarterback. And he went in there and not only won the division, but beat the defending NFC champions at the time, knocking them out of the playoffs. He performed on a high level. And yeah, you see Joe Flacco in the Houston game, he threw out, 3 or 4 picks, and I think 2 of them were returned for touchdowns. So at the end of the day, Flacco winning, I mean, I feel like it was a Browns, favoritism because 2 other awards went to their guys. I think the head coach had coach of the year, and then they got assistant
D'Amico
coach
Ryan should have got that as well, to me.
Exactly. It's just a complete joke all around between the Pro Bowl, the awards.
Well, that's Pro Bowl, whole nother topic of jokes right there. Stunna, do you agree with J-Lo, and do you think Baker got snubbed here, or do you think it was Joe Flacco being the deserving man there? Again, I think it was a 2-man race. You had DeMar, you had Baker, depending on how you felt. What say you, Stun?
I agree. DeMar or Baker, the comeback player of the year to me has come back from injury. But I guess you could see if he made his career comeback. But Flacco, he was just a journeyman quarterback who made a playoff run for the Browns. So definitely didn't come back from anything to me. But I like to see awards and Pro Bowls. The Pro Bowl MVP means more with Baker to me. But, at the end of the day, we want to hoist the trophy.
Yeah, and the nice thing with Baker is he had a lot of fun at that Pro Bowl. He actually cared to be there. He was compassionate there. A lot of guys, you've seen Jalen Hurts. He didn't look like he was having fun out there. He kind of looked like it was like this is all right. I'm just here making my 44,000. If I lose, my 88,000. If I win, Baker was out there dancing with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Having a great time with C.J. Stroud, soaking it in with the Manning brothers. But, Gene, what say you? Do you think that man deserved the comeback player of the year, or do you think Flacco deserved it, as Pops says? Who the hell voted on that crap? Terrible. Baker over Flacco in that aspect. I agree there.
Yeah, there's been a chain of just wrong choices throughout this season, and this is just the epitome of it. And it just, again, it goes back to, it reinforces why I don't watch mainstream media. I don't get into I would rather listen to a podcaster, somebody who's invested in this team, and they don't have a narrative that they're trying to push. There is no way that Hamlin or Baker doesn't win that award. Flacco had no business even being in that conversation. The guy is still bad. He was bad to begin with. He was good. He would be starting on a team somewhere. The guy has no business, even in this conversation. I mean, you look at what Baker Mayfield did. As was mentioned, he went from Carolina. Carolina did not want him, and they cut him. He goes to the Rams. He loses out to Sam Darnold, and he goes to the Rams.
Mhm.
So I just can't wrap my head around this. Why was this even a thing? And again, I just look at his stats, and there's nothing that I can see that would even make me change my mind or come even close. I mean, when he finally came up against competition, he folded up like a tent, and he did what we expected Joe Flacco to do. But when you look at what Baker Mayfield did, Baker Mayfield turned around a locker room. He came in behind Tom Brady and turned around a locker room. And if I know a lot of teams can't understand that, but that speaks volumes. You're talking about the greatest quarterback of all times, and you're coming in behind him, and you come in and you're competitive. And you've got the fans, you've got the players, you've got the locker room, the organization behind you wanting to bring you back. So that, again, that speaks volumes. And he could have came in and he could play bare minimum to make his money just so he could go somewhere else. But no, he showed compassion. I mean, his fire throughout that season was, it was next level. I didn't expect to see it, but that's what you saw from him. And there's just, like I said, no way that Joe Flacco exhibited anything even remotely close to what Baker Mayfield did.
And I agree with you. And I put it like this on Twitter earlier, and a lot of people seem to agree. And we've all said a lot of these points already, but I go, wow, last night proved the annual NFL awards maybe losing some luster with comeback player of the year and more. Two teams gave up on Baker last year, Browns and Panthers. Not a lot of love for Baker this offseason, settled for less money on the market than Jared Stidham and a lot of other quarterback talents. Bucs had a new offensive coordinator and a handful of other new offensive assistants last year, mending in with Baker as well. Baker played 19 games, including playoffs, and played his tail off, ended up making the Pro Bowl, winning that MVP. If DeMar Hamlin would have taken home the award, I think people could have made sense of that, even though he had a lack of statistics. But the fact of the matter that Joe Flacco won it over Baker Mayfield is just baffling. Cool story aside, Flacco had nothing on Baker, and even his story wasn't better. Flacco was a sitting duck turnover machine in the pocket who played a handful of games. Baker protected the ball very well, made plays with his legs, and played the entirety of the season, Gene. So J-Lo and Stunna, that's my takes. It seems like everyone agrees with us as well. And the testament on that, the awards kind of contradict each other, and then we're going to get to some Gene awards if he has any for us for his Bucs things of the year. J-Lo and I gave our awards last week for that, but real quick here, contradiction. If Kevin Stefanski wins the Coach of the Year, how the hell does Flacco win Comeback Player of the Year, right? Because if Stefanski's such a good coach that he won Coach of the Year, Flacco, it's a contradiction there to me. Yeah. It's either if D'Amico Ryans is Coach of the Year, you can make more sense of Flacco being the Comeback Player of the Year. But if Flacco, quote unquote, had the Coach of the Year, how do you give a guy like him the Comeback Player of the Year? So, to me, there's a lot of holes in that, kind of like a piece of Swiss cheese. But
yeah.
Who am I kidding? Gene, though, we're speaking of awards now. Before we get to our Super Bowl predictions and picks, you have any Bucs awards to share, my friend? Anything?
I do, and I'm going to go through these real quick because I know I've been like hogging up all the time, and I apologize, but I'm just excited to be on here. I'm just excited. I'm glad to be here, guys. Glad to be here.
We love having you, man. Never be sorry and never feel like you're taking up too much time. We're honored to have you as a Buccateer. And for those that missed it earlier in the episode, we did love to announce that Buck What You Heard, Buccateers collaboration. Gene is now a Buccateer, and we're very excited to have him. And he's going to bless us with his Bucs awards right now.
All right. And I want to start at the top. 2024 Bucs MVP for me is Jason Light. Hands down, Yaya Diaby, Kalijah Cansey, Baker Mayfield, just those three right there should easily put him as an MVP on any team. Just what those guys have accomplished, and we're not even talking about some of the undrafted free agents that were brought in, within the organization. So I will tell you this. I mean, what Jason Light has done with the amount of salary cap room that he had is nothing short of amazing. And as a Bucs fan, I've never seen this before. I'm not used to this. But to me, I trust the process. That's why you're not hearing me like, banging the saber about, Mike Evans, because I know that Jason Light has a plan and I trust the process. So definitely he's my MVP. Most improved player, I gave that to Rachaad White, just because, playing behind Leonard Fournette and then coming in, as a starter and doing what you did. I mean, I know it's all purpose yards. He's 10 yards off of getting 1,000-yard season, which we haven't seen since Doug Martin. And to me, just what he's done to come into his role, I'm excited. I'm excited for him for next year to see what he's going to bring. So, Rachaad White gets my improved player of the year. Defensive player of the year, I had to give it to Antoine Winfield Jr.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and forth. I gave it to Levante David, then I erased that and I gave it to Antoine, then I gave it to Levante, and I gave it to Antoine. And it just came down to, what each player means, in their respective position. And I had to give it to Antoine Winfield Jr. just because of his play. And again, this is no slight on Levante David. Whenever there was a play, one of those two guys was near the ball every single time. And so it was a tough choice, but it kind of came down to that. And I'm showing my biasness for my offensive player of the year by giving it to Mike Evans, because Mike Evans is my guy. Once in a generation player. As a Buck fan, I've never seen a player like a Mike Evans, and I hope we get him back. So for that offensive player of the year, I gave it to Mike Evans. Cody Mock was my offensive rookie player of the year.
Yes.
And I love the leaps that he's made in developing in adjusting to the speed of the game throughout the season, and how that offensive line is gelled and how he's a huge part of that. And a lot of people are like, well, we didn't hear his name. That's a good thing when you don't hear an offensive lineman's name, because he's not screwing up.
Exactly.
And again, I expect big things from him if he could stay healthy. With the loss of Orion Jensen and getting a guy that's hungry like that to come in, I'm super excited about it. Defensive rookie of the year, I gave that to Yaya Diaby. The guy who's been playing lights out. You look at the number of snaps he's gotten and the amount of productivity that you've seen from him. And towards the end of the season, you've seen where offensive coordinators are having to scheme for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a rookie. So to me, that tells you that, he's played at a level to where people have to pay attention to him when he's on the field. They have to know where he's at. And he still, continues to make plays. So, my letdown of the year is Devin White. Devin White has continued to just spiral. I mean, he's been inconsistent, but he's inconsistent now at a level that I've just never seen him, and it's a shame. I understand he's had injuries this year, and again, I'm not going to take anything from him. He did have injuries, but I did expect to see more from him. There were times where he was 100% healthy, and the mental mistakes that we saw from him, liability and pass coverage on a continuous basis. He was just, I didn't expect to see this kind of spiraling out of control. And, this was a contract year for him. This is a year he could have set himself up to go to another team and really get some big money. But again, it is what it is. But those are my picks. And thank you guys for listening to me. And it's back to you.
I think they were very good picks, and obviously, the weird thing about Devin White was coming into the year, you had hopes of, hey, maybe this year we'll get him back on track, and he showed a little bit at the beginning of the season, and then he kind of downward spiraled, and then at the end of the year when KJ Britt was a little banged up, he came on strong 2 of the last 3 games again. And he's kind of just this inconsistent guy and player who gets over emotional, it seems like, when, he can't really deal with criticism or a bad game too well. And that's really the key on being a successful athlete. You got to take these things in stride.
And there are things you have to keep in house. And
Mhm.
you know what, he may not have liked his, you know, the way the Bucs handled him. I understand that. You know, you go out there and you handle things, you know, professionally. And I'll give you a good case in point, not to take up too much time here, but the way Gerald McCoy left and went to Carolina, and I look at Ndamukong Suh, they couldn't come to an agreement with the Bucs professionally, just walked out, went to another team. And you could tell, you know, that's why I call Ndamukong Suh my 93, because he was professional and he provided so many memorable moments in a small amount of time for the fan base. And you can't help but you know, just look back on his limited career here and wonder what it could have been had he been the guy that the Bucs had drafted. So again, that's just a sample size of what I'm talking about here. But I hope that you know, wherever Devin White ends up, I hope that, you know, I hope it's good for him, and I hope that, you know, maybe a change is what he needs.
And isn't that kind of ironic and funny? And that's why we love sports as well. And we're about to get to our Super Bowl predictions and final words here. But yeah, Gene, I think you're 100% right. The irony of, you know, McCoy and Sue being back-to-back picks, and then all those years later, Sue kind of comes in for McCoy and takes the torch and runs with it in cases of many fans. And to this day, I'm one of them. And although I did like G-Mac, Ndamukong Suh brought the noise here, brought the heat here. He came here in 2019 when he didn't have to, right? We didn't have Brady yet. We didn't have Gronk yet. We didn't have a lot of these guys yet. Sure, Bruce came here. And, you know, I remember we signed him late in free agency that year as well. He waited. He was patient. A lot of people were, oh, is this a good signing? Ended up being a great signing and was a great Buck for 3 seasons here in Tampa Bay. And we really appreciate Ndamukong Suh and all that he brought to the table, brought ferociousness and brought us a ring. Speaking of rings, it's a weekend where somebody gets a damn ring. And it's either going to be, you know, the Mahomes family, which is turning into the Munster family, getting very scary over there between Brittany Jackson and Patty Sr. And then you got the Swifties, and you got a lot of noise going on in Kansas City. Yeah. And here you got San Fran, who's kind of quiet fans, and, you know, they're kind of making it easy to root for them. As he says real quick, do you think Devin White's nope, Devin White's done in Tampa. He's done. I don't care if he wants to take less. He's done. But J-Lo, we'll start with you. Super Bowl prediction. San Fran, who's quietly becoming America's beloved, seemingly, against the Mahomes and Swiftonites. Or do you got the Mahomes and Swiftonites of the Kansas City Chiefs?
It's been a tough one all week. I mean, as much as I want to see the Niners win, I don't want to see Mahomes win another ring at the moment. But I'm going with Kansas City with a field goal win, 27-24. Give me Chiefs.
So you're a Swiftie. No, I'm kidding. But no,
I
mean,
come on, don't be like that.
That's hey, it wouldn't be a bad thing. I mean, you know, one of the most polarizing popular figures there are. So, you know, if you're a Swiftie, be loud and proud, brother. Stunna, are you going to be a Swiftie on Sunday, or do you have McCaffrey and company?
Yeah, man. You know, I'm not a big Kansas City fan, but I'm definitely picking them for Sunday. And I definitely don't want to see the Niners get 6 Super Bowls. Definitely grew up hating the 49ers. Definitely hated Joe Montana growing up. Definitely couldn't stand the fact that they got Steve Young from us. And definitely going to be rooting for.
That's a fair point. That's your best point yet. You know, your other ones, but the fact they got Steve Young from us, you got a gripe there.
Well, they used to run the score up on us. You know, they used to try to run it in our nose. They still do. When we played out there this year, you know, they're just a bunch of noxious jerks. You know, just if you ever have to sit around Niner fans or sit in the stands with them, you just get a disdain for that fan base. Most of my rivalries are in the NFC, so I typically do root AFC in the Super Bowl year after year.
And that kind of makes sense, but modern day Chiefs fans, I guess they kind of sound a lot what you just described right there. So it's interesting to get the different views and thoughts. As Bud says he'll never root for KC, and then you got Richard saying 49ers are just a West Coast Dallas Cowboys. So that right there shows the splits and odds and ends of the spectrum for this big dance. Gene, are you going with J-Lo and Stunna? Are you on the Chiefs train as well?
I'm hoping for a tie. I hate both of these teams. Brittany Horseface on the cover of Sports Illustrated, it was made me like physically not, made me not even want to eat my lunch. And then Jerks and Mahomes gets out of all the trouble that he got in, and then I do not like Kansas City. I don't like Kansas City. I mean, you see the shirt I'm wearing right now, and then on the flip side of that, Niner fans are the worst. They're insufferable. And when I think the last Super Bowl they went to, Colin Kaepernick, I think, was the quarterback. And when they lost, I was so happy. And they just kind of went in their little hole or their cave, and they went away. Mm-hmm. And you have to deal with them. Mm-hmm. But now here they are. They're coming out now. They're starting to get kind of loud, and they're trying to tell people about, their history and all the Super Bowls that they've won. So I'm just like, I think this is going to be a good game, but it's just hard because I hate both of these teams. I really do. I like Brock Purdy. Christian McCaffrey. I like Christian McCaffrey. I'm good with him. I wish there, but I wish there could be a tie. Best case scenario that there would be a tie in the Super Bowl. I could live with that, but I know they would never let that happen. So I have to kind of break this down to, I'm down with John Lynch.
Yes.
And that's kind of the direction I'll have to go. John Lynch, I love the man. I love everything that, he's still a Buccaneer to me, regardless. So I have to, in my mind, scale it back to say, hey, I'm down with John Lynch. And that's where I'm rolling. That's how I'm rolling. Because I don't want Patrick Mahomes to never win nothing else again. I hope he ties the rest of his years. I hope he never wins another Super Bowl if I had my way. I mean, that's just what I think of Kansas City. So probably end up being rolling with John Lynch. I'm supporting John Lynch and what he's doing. I'll just put it that way.
And I couldn't agree more. I was waiting for someone to say the words John Lynch, and I was like, tip of the tongue. And then Gene comes in and saves it, and that's why I'm on the 49ers as well. If you're a friend of mine, you're a friend of mine. And John Lynch is a friend of all of ours. He really helped develop the winning culture in Tampa Bay, and it really makes me, man, whenever I see him in a Denver uniform, it makes me shudder, and should have never happened. He should have been.
I'm still mad at John Gruden, that scumbag, for that. I could tell you stories. I've heard stories from players, former players, and I do not like John Gruden. I will never. John Gruden's right there with Greg Schiano for me, and Mark Dominic and Bruce Allen. They're all in that same lump together as far as I'm concerned, because John Lynch and Mike, what he did to Allstott too. I just don't even get me started on this. So I'm going to get off of this because I'll need therapy here pretty soon. But I'm down with John Lynch and the Niners.
And what he did to Sapp as well, right? A lot of these legends ended up leaving town unwillingly. And
Simeon Rice.
Yeah, Simeon Rice is another one. But we could have a whole special on how that Bucs team got effed up, not in a good way. And I'm going with San Fran. I'm going with my guy, John Lynch. I'm going with Brock Purdy. I hope he gets one. The only reason why I'm winning San Fran in the original Harbaugh, because I wanted to see Randy Moss get a ring. That's why I was rooting for them back then. They came up short. The last time the Chiefs played them, I was pretty indifferent, but as Gene alluded to, I don't want to see Mahomes winning. I want Brady to kind of hold that throne forever of having that Super Bowl run, not only because he was here in Tampa. Believe it or not, I was a Brady guy before he even came to the Bucs. I don't really care about Deflategate because that stuff isn't like steroids where you're literally, you listen to Brad Johnson, you listen to a lot of these quarterbacks. A lot of them did that with the deflating of the balls. Pat Mahomes, his family just makes him so irritable.
Play bait was about LeGarrette Blount being a fumbler. It never really had anything to do with Brady.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Well,
Yeah.
there's that. But as Gene
And
alluded,
honestly, dude, just real quick, you know, the thing about Kansas City is, you know, they've won 3 championships in
yep.
the 500 years that they've been in the league. And Bucks are at 2. You know, the Bucks won at home, and you know, you can't take any of that away from us. And again, now you see Patrick Mahomes on every freaking commercial. I just want all that to go away. I really do. I just want to, and it's not Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, I think, has been on a football broadcast. Her picture's up like 18 seconds throughout the whole game.
Yeah, it ain't a long time. It just
I'm not against her. I actually have a lot of respect for her and, you know, in her career. But that family right there, they are the worst. And the second I saw Horseface on there on the cover of Sports Illustrated, it's deflated me. That you talk about Deflategate Gene part 2 is what you got from that right there, man. It's just,
and Gene, I think you're 100% right, but you know what makes it bad for Swift is that she like gets lumped into the Mahomes family for better or for worse, because
mostly for worse.
Exactly, you know, she has to be next to Brittany and put on a fake smile, and then Jackson, who this man literally danced on a dead man's you know, honorary moment in Sean Taylor. So give me the 49ers. I can't root for a team like the Chiefs. I'm going 49ers 23, Kansas City 21 in an epic battle between Kansas City and San Fran. And really what I think, as Gene alluded to and the other guys, it's going to be a fun Super Bowl. I don't see a blowout happening one way or another. I think it's going to be really, really fun. But Gene, if you're not familiar yet, whenever we wrap up here, as it's already an hour and a half before I got to start paying overtime and dishing out overtime for the payroll here, we're going to give our final word. And this is just a segment where one thing you're looking forward to in the near future, football related, sports related, whatever it is, kind of give the final word here. And J-Lo, what's yours, brother? I do appreciate you battling the storm and joining us tonight, J-Lo. And what's your final word, brother?
First and foremost, welcome, Gene. Welcome to the team. Excited to have you, bro. Can't wait to talk more about football with you in the future. And
fuck what you heard.
Yes, sir. Fire the cannons. Fire the cannons. My guy, Gene. But at the end of the day, we know we're a family on here, you know. Like I said, and now we've had another family to the group, and like I said, looking forward to talking more about football, man. Like I said, it's going to be a fun season coming up, fun off season, talking about the football. And like I said, hopefully we'll come out with some fun episodes, man. Like Tones mentioned, maybe talk about the past a little bit or who was the better team, but we'll talk about that later. But at the end of the day, I'm excited for the Super Bowl. Let's get to the off season and build a stronger team.
I do have some good guests lined up, including Florida International's newest. This will be my final word. Congratulations to my brother, former Bucs cornerback Anthony Gator. He was promoted to Florida International cornerbacks coach just the other day, and that's his alma mater. That's his alumni, Florida International, and he's really helping this youth coaching staff move. He's only in his late 30s. He's already went from defensive assistant to outside linebackers coach to cornerbacks coach. And it's kind of funny, whenever Gator used to come on the podcast when he was retired after his Canadian football days, I asked him, is coaching ever in your future? He said it's something he'd love to do, but later down the road. Well, look at him. Just 3-4 years later, already one hell of a coach. So we will have Anthony Gator on here in the coming week or two to really talk about the Bucs season, his promotion, his coaching, and all that stuff. And we're going to get James Canada, former Bucs and Colts D lineman, on the show as well, pick his brain a little bit. He's a fun one. I'm sure Gene's going to help get us KB, Kenny Barrett, in the house too. So nothing but good stuff here on the Buccateers, and that's my final word. The good times are going to keep rolling. Welcome the lean, mean Gene Machine. He's awesome. Longtime friend of mine and friend of the shows at this point. Can't believe it's already been 4 or 5 years of talking football with my man Gene. So, Gene, once again, welcome, brother. Can't wait to talk with you. Can't wait to continue the Buccateers climb, and can't wait to get these Buck what you heard thoughts, opinions, and so much more, brother.
Oh yeah, definitely. Final thoughts. I want to thank all you guys for, welcoming me on the show. This is going to be fun. I just want to contribute. I mean, that's my whole thing. I do want to shout out to everybody in the chat, everybody that contributes. I mean, this is what makes it fun, because your voice should be heard as well as anybody else's, and in the the sports arena. So thank you for all that. Really looking forward to the off season and seeing what the Buccaneers are going to do. We do have the combines coming up and then the draft, so it's going to go fast. And enjoy the off season as much as you can. This is the last game of the season. Let's have some fun, even though it's two god awful teams that you don't like. Let's go out here and just have some fun with it. And you guys, we're going to do something special. I know, as we get closer to the season, who knows, it may be possibly camp or something like that. It may be meeting up at Arrowhead, or who knows. There's going to be something that we'll link up, and we'll be able to do something in person for all you guys.
And that would be incredible. I can't wait for that. That's going to be awesome. And Gene's right. Be on the lookout. We got a lot of fun stuff coming. Speaking of fun stuff, Bruce Arians' wife, the lovely Christine Arians, just like my tweet for Baker Mayfield's case for comeback player of the year. So who knows? Maybe we'll get a Jake Arians sighting on the podcast, former NFL kicker and son of Bruce Arians. But Gene, awesome first episode. Stunna, take it home on the final word, brother. I know you have something good to say.
Fire the cannons. It's time to represent. Let's get into this draft talk. Let's get into this free agency talk. Let's get this all season going. Let's get on some 7-on-7 football. Let's get this podcast going to #1 on Spotify, YouTube, all your social medias, X, you name it. We coming home. We the Buccateers. We get a new intro. We get a new outro. It's a new year. It's a new season. All season, baby. Go Bucs.
And I do just want to give a shout out quick to the podcast listeners as well, because 7 of our past 8 on YouTube alone have gotten triple-digit views, including our Liam Cohen show, which is at 500,000 views. And we keep the climb coming, and now adding Gene, adding all these new listeners. I mean, so many new faces tonight alone. It's been awesome, between Bud, between Tempe 1D, between Richard. So really, Buck what you heard, Buccateers, Gene joining aboard, just going to provide that much more fun football talk, that much more fun podcast talk. You get our listeners, his listeners, really have a lot of good stuff to say, having fun convos all night long. I mean, thank you, everybody, for joining, from Olivia to Tom Bucks fan to Justice Muhammad to Tempe 1 to Bud. It's been really incredible, as Dave Castle is joining us now on Facebook as well. So really one of those things that's been a lot of fun. Gene, Stunna, J-Lo, on behalf of Cats, on behalf of Bucko, on behalf of Huncho, who weren't able to make it tonight, we hope they can soon, because we went from a 6-pack, we called ourselves, and now we're the Wolf Pack. We're the Wolf Pack here on the Buccateers. Oh. So everybody stay blessed. Have a gregreat, safe night. 3, 2, 1, fire the damn cannons. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Gene, it was an awesome first show with you, brother. Looking forward to many more. And same with you, J-Lo and Stunna.
All right, guys.
God bless, man. Take care.
And again, new video coming soon, and it's going to be a fun one. We're going to incorporate all the Buccateers into that as well. So God bless everyone. Have a great night. Gene, awesome stuff, brother. We'll talk soon. Game on Sunday, man. I know you're nervous for the Rams, but you got to be a little enthusiastic after being there.
Bro, that game atmosphere was ridiculous. The energy, the electricity. That place was rocking. Anyone was there, and a lot of the Super Buck fans were there too. The Bucks.
Tampa Tones. We are joined by lead goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron Show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little clear. But we're joined by Pat
It looks like
Donovan.
Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like we got a little...
No,